Great. Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me here. I think we took around 25 minutes to, set this up, and apologies, for taking so much of time. Uh, so hope you all are doing good here. We are living in tough times where, life is not that simple, and in virtual this seems, much more relaxed, but actually it may not be. So, anyways, let's talk about DeFi and NFTs today. Uh, if I give you a brief introduction about myself, I am founding partner of Chain Assets Capital, and we invest into startups at seed stage, crypto startups especially, and then we also manage client portfolios. We trade on behalf of them, and this is what we all do. And prior to Chain Assets, I am working in this industry since past 5 years now, and I have worked with projects called Aave, CoinFox. I was co-founder with CoinFox, and Aave, you all know, it's a leader in DeFi space today. Apart from that, I have been part of many different institutions where I was invited by government to teach different people, especially chartered accountants, lawyers, and engineering students. And I have taught blockchain over there. Now I am focusing more on investing and backing some good projects going forward. This is what I primarily focus on. And let's talk. I just Let me just
Is there any problem in there?
I was just about to share the screen. I have to
Okay,
give
okay.
permission rights. Yeah, just a minute.
Yeah. Okay, okay, sure. Otherwise, I'll share it for you. Just let me know.
Meanwhile, you can share that. Okay. So
Okay, okay, I'm
meanwhile,
sharing.
I'm trying to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sharing. Okay.
I think it's done. Now I can share the screen. Yes. Oh, it's not yet. Sometimes this Apple privacy rights, it annoys a lot.
No worries, I'll just do it for you. You can just tell me
Yeah, yeah.
when,
Please,
whenever
please,
you need
please,
to change the
please.
slide. Yeah,
You
yeah,
can.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. How can I see that? Okay, fine. Now I can see. You can go to next slide. So we will talk about DeFi and NFTs, and first of all, we will talk about like what is DeFi. We will talk about DeFi versus CeFi. Then we'll talk about some money legos. We'll talk about DeFi wallets. Then there are a lot of other topics also which has been covered, but they are not mentioned in index. We will talk about NFTs also. Please move on to next slide. So So first we'll talk about like what exactly DeFi is. If anyone has asked questions, just let me know in between. Okay. So DeFi, it essentially represents the digital assets, financial smart contracts, protocols, and decentralized applications which are built on blockchain. Essentially, when we talk about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is actually the first very basic use case of DeFi, where if you have to transfer money, you have to transfer some value, right? Bitcoin represents that, and that is a very basic use case of DeFi. But when we talk about other possible use cases of financial world, this is where infra blockchains like Ethereum have come into existence, and they have really opened up the scope for those financial applications. And financial smart contracts are where they are opening that scope, and they are basically nothing but automated enforceable agreements which don't need any intermediaries like banks or lawyers, but use blockchain instead of verifiability, right? So I hope you all are aware of this because you are already working into this industry. So at now, when we talk about DeFi, let's try to understand it at three different ways. At an infrastructure level, DeFi's protocols provide a technical and functional base layer, where you can build multiple protocols. So at an infrastructure level, you can try to innovate about any type of financial services or any type of financial protocol, which can be built, and on top of that, multiple applications can further be developed, right? And at a middleware level, DeFi has seen a rapid increase of APIs, open access points. So where through these APIs, multiple DeFi applications can be connected, and we call it as composability also, right? So the composability is happening through middleware, right? Interchangeable model functionality, and so projects like, you must have heard of Graph these days, right? They are providing these APIs on blockchain, right? And all these DeFi applications are using protocols like Graph to you know connect this composability. And also a lot of Oracle projects like Chainlink, Teller, they all are acting as oracles and middleware, right? So as at an application level, the the wallet where you are holding the assets, right? That becomes an entry point for DeFi, right? It becomes a custodian, for you. So you are your own custodian. When we talk about the difference in DeFi and CeFi, that we will discuss further. You are the custodian here, and your own crypto wallet becomes an entry point for you at an application level, right? So although the user experience is not as per not similar to the centralized finance, but now a lot of development has happened in the past 1 year, and a lot of further innovation is already happening to make it more user friendly, right? So we have seen a lot of improvement in past 1 year. about user experience. So let's move on to next. So let's talk about some stats about DeFi. At present, the total DeFi market cap is around $135 billion. Now this is actually roughly 6% of the entire market cap. Would say that's not much, right? Uh, Earlier, this was around 11%, when this move started in last year. This market cap was around $9 billion, DeFi market cap, and this was constituting around $11 billion. And what I have observed is that infrastructure blockchains have taken a lot of market share, and that's why I think DeFi and from last I would say around 6 months, DeFi from the price action point of view, they are still holding on, and I feel the DeFi summer is about to come, and that's why the market share has reduced, but still DeFi easily constitutes 6% of the entire crypto market cap. And if we talk about the 24-hour trading volume, around $16.4 billion trading volume is there for DeFi tokens, which is roughly again 6% of entire trading volume. And if we talk about the decentralized exchanges, like there are centralized exchanges like Binance, KuCoin, again, it's just 3.5% of the entire exchange trading volume, right? Roughly $10 billion, trading volume is there. But it's still very, impressive because, the way we are moving forward, with all these regulations, we are moving forward with the industry, retaining the decentralization. And if you must have observed that there is a huge amount of outflow happening for BTC and Ethereum from the exchanges, from the centralized exchanges, and this indicates that a lot of hodlers are increasing. Number two, a lot of these hodlers are now trying to we are expecting that these hodlers will, if they want to trade in the going future, they may adopt dexes. So I feel the way outflow is happening, there will be a a tipping point where the decentralized the dex trading volume will suddenly jump, and it may cross 10% of the entire exchange trading volume. That is what I am expecting in coming months, next 6 months. So when we talk about the total value locked, so if you see the figure, it started with $86 million in February 2018, like this last the end of the last bull cycle. It was just $86 million, and it from there we have today reached to $128 billion, and this is a remarkable growth. Such growth has not been seen in any other industry so far, not at least in my view. So if you just compare last year's value, around $9 billion of value was logged in past in last year, and we have yet to complete 12 months. It's still 3 months left for that. Sorry, 2 months left for that, right? So still in last 10 months only, we have skyrocketed from $9 billion to $128 billion. That's a huge growth. So let's move on to next. So this indicates that how although the trading volume of DeFi has decreased, of the DeFi tokens, but the value that is getting logged on DeFi, that is increasing with time. The more people, or the more amount of number of people are joining this space, the more number of people are actually joining DeFi alongside. And I believe if the trading volume is decreasing for DeFi tokens, this believes that more number of hodlers might be increasing because of that. right? This gives some level of insight. So hope this finds this makes this is an interesting insight for all of you guys. Please switch on to next. Now let's talk about the difference between DeFi, CeFi, and OldFi. I have separated out the CeFi and OldFi. Why? Because when we talk about CeFi usually comes with respect to the crypto only, because we have centralized exchanges, right? So we have centralized financial services also for crypto so far. So it was very important to separate out that narrative from the traditional finance. So if we talk about the verification, right, in DeFi no verification is required. We do not need to do any KYC in DeFi, but in CeFi, like in exchanges, you have to do that. In traditional finance, definitely yes. When we talk about custodian, again, CeFi and OldFi both are custodians, right? Binance is custodian of your assets, but in DeFi, no. There is no custodian. You are the custodian of your assets. When we talk about the user interface and user experience, so it's not that easy. Although I feel that that has been increased with time, but still a lot of innovation is required. And I feel in coming next 3 to 4 years we will see a great shift towards this side, and I feel some of you will be working on that for sure. And but when we talk about centralized exchanges, we talk about the traditional finance, we have very good user experience, very butter smooth user interface over there. When we talk about exchanges, obviously DeFi represents decentralized exchanges, and CeFi and OldFi are all centralized. We're talking about control again. We are seeing the emergence of governance models here, right? The governance tokens are emerging. The governance models are emerging, where the communities are running the protocols, they are managing the decisions, right? But when we talk about CeFi, they are very tightly controlled. Like if we talk about Binance, right, CZ runs the game here, right? The team that is controlled by CZ runs the game, right? We are not entitled to any change if we want on Binance, right? But when we talk about DeFi, we will have a fair share of voting, right? If we are holding either tokens of that, I mean, if or we are following the rules of their governance model. So when we talk about traditional finance, it's very very tightly controlled by the private companies or by the government. They run that, and that's why it's kind of now criminalized by those traditional financial institutions, and that's where the emergence of DeFi has happened. So when we talk about the globalization, DeFi is global, right? It does not it cannot stop you if you are even sitting in US, right? So CeFi is global, although, but there are regulatory restrictions which you can't find in DeFi. When we talk about traditional finance, definitely borders come into picture. So talking about cross-chain services, so this is where when CZ talked about CDFI, right? So you must have heard of this term called CZFi, CDFi. So CDFi is where he is using his centralized platform, but he's providing the bridging services. That's what he was trying to say. So that's why cross-chain services are possible in CeFi also, and already if you have to exchange, let's say from Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin, you have to exchange from Polkadot to Ethereum, you have to exchange from any one crypto to any other crypto, right? This can be done on centralized exchanges. But when we talk about DeFi, it's still starting. Why? Because on-chain exchange is still a challenge, but a lot of people are working on this. If you talk about the project called Ren, right? Ren project is like building this layer where BTC, there can be a wrapped version of BTC, right? Using that infra layer of REN, and then that wrapped version of BTC can be exchanged on Ethereum blockchain itself, right? So similarly, Polkadot is building the bridging layer for Ethereum, for Bitcoin, and for other assets, for Zcash, for other, and similarly, all other now a lot. But whoever is coming up with infra layer, they are trying to, they are trying to solve this problem of cross chain, right? Although it's not it's not easy job, but it is something we will see a lot of emergence happen, a lot of shift happening towards this side in going forward, coming future. So talking about trust, obviously, in crypto, in decentralized finance world, it's trustless, right? So we don't rely on human-based trust. We don't even rely on any relationship-based trust. We only rely on the rule-based trust, the rules that are written, the logic or the formulas that are written, right? So whatever logic or whatever rules which are written in code, they make it autonomous and they make it trustless. So in CeFi, we still have to trust on CZ, we still have to trust on centralized entities. And when we talk about traditional finance, we still have to trust on, it's very much paramount that we have to trust on the government, right? And this is where, so when the trust is there, when we have the lesser number of people involved, it's very simple to understand. The lesser number of, or the more concentrated class of people involved, the more centralized it is going to be, the more claim of trust it is going to be, but then it will be more susceptible to corruption, right? It will be a very high chance that that's why we see a very high corruption in traditional finance, right? There is comparatively less corruption, when we talk about the private businesses, right? When we talk about the even centralized crypto businesses, but then there is again a chance of corruption over there as well. But when we talk about the DeFi, when governance models have been designed, right, it's going to be trustless, right? The base layer like Ethereum is anyways trustless, right? But then on top of that, when DeFi smart contracts are written, when the DeFi apps are built, they are also being managed through governance models, like the decision makings happen through governance models. So that's where it becomes trustless, and that's the future, I would say. So talking about the composability that we have already discussed, so DeFi brings that composability. We will discuss about this in detail going forward. CeFi and OldFi does not bring composability. I feel yes, through DeFi and crypto, yes, of composability, which he is still trying to do through DeFi, but the true composability actually happens in DeFi only. Then transparent activity. Everything is transparent in DeFi, right? Everything is visible on chain, but in CeFi and OldFi, nothing is visible. Fiat on-off ramp is already getting like it has been developed now. There is a project called Transac, which has recently been into picture since past 1 year. So they are very active in Ethereum fiat on-off ramps. CeFi already, CeFi and OldFi already have fiat on-off ramps, right? So yeah, please next. So if anyone has any questions, just let me know. You can raise the hands. Meanwhile. Does anyone has question, or should I move just next?
1 second, Upinder. Hi guys, sorry, there was some issue with the moderator rights earlier. So just wanted to ask you if you can see this screen. Is it being, can you guys share, see this screen shared? The PPT, I mean? Okay. It's a thumbs up. Perfect. Perfect. Upinder, please.
Okay. Fine. So let's move on to next screen. So now we will talk about the deep. No, just go to previous slide. Here we will talk about the advantages and disadvantages, right? Like the risk involved in DeFi. So risk involved in CeFi, then advantages of DeFi, advantages of CeFi, right? This is what we will talk about here. So if we talk about the disadvantages of DeFi, smart contracts can have bugs and exploits, which can drain whole money logged into them. And trust me, a lot of money has already been rug pulled. Either they have been hacked, or they can be rug pulled by the founders itself. So it's very critical, right? So when if the very recent hack happened for EasyFi, you must be knowing about EasyFi, right? The around $6 million were drained from their smart contract, and so that's the big disadvantage so far. And it's very critical that we should go for proper audits, but still it's always at risk. So security of user funds depend on OPSEC of or admin key. Now when the smart contracts are deployed in DeFi, so there is an admin key which is with the founders, right? So either the admin key can be burnt, right? So that there is the admin key, if is there with the founders, then they should be they should be making the project in a way that the governance models should be activated, and this admin key should be transferred to those the community who is handling the governance, right? So this once if I give you an example, there is a project called DeFi Money, YFII, that is trading on Binance. It's a fork of Yearn Finance. So Yearn Finance, founder Andre Grone still has the admin key with him. So recently, when there was a hack happened on Yearn Finance, they minted around 6 or 7,000 YFI tokens, right? Total token supply was 30,000, and but they when the hack happened, to cover those losses, they actually minted an 1,000 YFI tokens because they had that. But in case of YFII, DeFi Money, let's say hack happens on that smart contract, there will be no chance to mint new tokens because admin key is not there, right? So and also since the funds are logged in the smart contract, so if admin key is there with the founder, then there is a chance of rug pull also here. So slower blockchain speed and high network fees, like in Ethereum, this is like very much known to everyone. It can be an issue in order to dodge liquidations, right? So recently, the trend of layer 2 solutions have emerged, which has significantly reduced the fees of Ethereum blockchain. And I feel this is going to escalate further, which will bring bring down this issue when the bridging solutions, cross-chain solutions will become more acceptable everywhere. Already Binance Smart Chain has become popular because of that. So liquidity issues are there. Yeah, I mean, although around $128 billion are locked, but still leaving behind few pairs, most of the pairs are not that liquid. So liquidity issues are still there on DeFi, right? It's going to be I would say resolved by the time when the infra layers will become more mature, and more and more projects will come with better user experience, right? So no scam control, definitely no terrorist finance control, right? When we talk about CeFi, depositors need to trust on organizations. KYC is required, permission is required, closed source decisions made behind closed doors by the organization or authority, hacking of exchange, censoring, all these are all known disadvantages in CeFi, right? When we talk about the advantages, now, you know although there are disadvantages in the DeFi space, but when we talk about the advantages are much more than the level of advantages is much higher than the disadvantages in DeFi. That's why people are still working on DeFi. There are some risks involved in DeFi, but this will be covered with time. So full control of funds in the hands of users, no KYC required, global open source interoperability is something which excites everyone to keep building the DeFi space. So when we talk about some advantages in CeFi, no need to keep seed phrases. Like there is a big hassle of securing the seed phrases. That's not there in CeFi. No need to manage their own wallets. Attractive rate of interest, highly intuitive, easy to use interfaces, quick execution of trades, risk transference, right? So this is what is there in CeFi, right? So NX yield farming, I would say I would say it's not still getting developed. It's already started in DeFi also. Like you can but still it is not that level of popular that you can farm multiple tokens by farming one particular token, right? By staking one particular token, right? That but it's still possible that you can now do that. A lot of projects are coming already on that. But in CeFi, already started by Binance, you could simply stake BNB or BUSD and then you could farm multiple tokens. Yeah, please go to next. So money legos. We specifically talk about three main pillars of DeFi here. Interoperability, programmability, and composability, like ability to exchange and make use of information across systems, right? So if there is one blockchain called Ethereum, another blockchain called Polkadot, then another blockchain called Binance Smart Chain. All these different blockchains, they are built in a way that they are becoming interoperable. So Ethereum earlier, what was happening, everybody was trying to build Ethereum killer. Everybody was, EOS started with that narrative, then Tezos followed that narrative, Ethereum killer. But the developer activity was so high on Ethereum, and it is still very high on Ethereum, that they are always ahead of the game. So what happened, there was a shift in the narrative in the market, that instead of trying to make another Ethereum killer, why not just accept that Ethereum is the godfather, just like Bitcoin. So, and but let's adopt make your blockchain as a interoperable or bridging solution which can connect Ethereum, and so that it becomes easy for cross-chain exchange of financial services, cross-chain exchange of information across different blockchains. So this is where this narrative was given first by Polkadot. So that's where but I would say this was hacked by Binance. Like Binance very smartly played that. They all fogged Ethereum, and they made everything very like very much similar to Ethereum. And whatever projects are coming on Ethereum, like the original, I would say still we see the original innovation happening on Ethereum in terms of DeFi. But when but those projects are being copied on Binance Smart Chain also, right? And those but those projects are gaining traction because Binance Smart Chain has very small fees, right? So it becomes super easy for adoption. So that's where they are also picking up. Like like Uniswap picked up on Ethereum, and then PancakeSwap came, and PancakeSwap picked a lot of customer base. It has a very good trading volume today. It has a very good market cap today, right? That's what happened. And interoperability is actually going to be very killing feature going forward. When there will be very smooth exchange of tokens or services between different blockchains. Let's imagine Matic network, also called Polygon now, like from Binance Smart Chain to Polygon, from Ethereum to Polygon, from Polygon to Polkadot, from Binance Smart Chain to Polkadot. How these interoperable exchanges bridging will happen. This is going to be really interesting. Then programmable, money created and controlled by. Please go to back, last slide. So programmable, like money created and controlled by smart contracts instead of people. So this, or you all know that this is what the function. This is what the property of a smart contract is, and but then this is very much fulfilled by the another property called composability, where one type of let's imagine when we let's try to understand composability today. So let's say you have a Paytm today, right? So if you have Paytm, or how Paytm can be bridged with let's say Zomato, right? How Paytm can be bridged with BigBasket, right? So when the traditional finance is trying to bridge some solutions, but then it is not easy because it depends on the decision of a particular company, right? If Paytm wants to build some composable solution with Zomato, then it will only happen when Zomato will allow. Or if Zomato wants to build a composable solution with Paytm, then it will only happen when Paytm will allow, right? But in case of DeFi, this composability is far ahead, very far ahead, where you do not need any permission. You can simply start building the composable solutions. If there is a lending protocol like Aave, you want to connect that even with Compound, that is another lending protocol, this is possible, very much possible, right? If you want to connect that Aave with yield aggregators like Yearn Finance, this is very much possible, right? Although if both have clubbed, both have collaborated, this is going to be a better user experience. They are going to build a better user experience, right? But even if they don't collaborate, one can still connect and start build a composable solution, right? This is the power of DeFi. So and this is a very, very powerful solution, I would say. Building the composable because composability is open here, right? It's not closed here. So but I would still say we are still in a very early stages. Whatever solutions are still available, we'll talk about the different categories of DeFi. Let's go to next. So now different infra layers, like we talk about main infra layer is like Ethereum, where that's the base Ethereum, right? I still feel Ethereum is going to be the godfather. It is still going to hold the reign of this DeFi base layer. So then the layer 2s have emerged, which are acting as a side chain on Ethereum itself. They are built on top of Ethereum, right? They are Polygon, Omisego, OMG, then Optimistic and ZK rollups are still in a very nascent stage. They are but they are very interesting solution again. So then bridging blockchains are also very much getting popular these days, especially Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, Avalanche, Solana. These are very trending bridging blockchains, right? And Tezos and EOS are still trying to pick up, but very few are following that. So let's go to next. So when we talk about the DeFi applications, right? So they are categorized into different categories. So we talk about the decentralized exchanges, right? Uniswap is there, SushiSwap is there. So SushiSwap is a fork of Uniswap. But what they brought is, they Uniswap was not having any token, was not having any governance token. So SushiSwap was the first to bring that token, where they said whoever will migrate the liquidity from Uniswap, they will get the Sushi tokens, right? So first they offered whoever is whoever is providing the liquidity on Uniswap, they will offer Sushi tokens. That's how it became popular. So then they said whoever will migrate the liquidity from Uniswap to SushiSwap, they will further provide Sushi, right? And there was a anonymous developer who built that, right? And it actually brought sucked a lot of volume of Uniswap. But then Uniswap was having anyways a first mover advantage. They brought their token. Then Uniswap also again led the market. But Uniswap is always ahead in terms of innovation, I would say. All the other is mostly are copycats. So but if we see any innovation emerging from other decentralized exchanges or money market protocols, automated market makers, no, there is never a denial for that. Like there is an example called Dodo. Dodo has is trying to solve the impermanent loss problem, which is very prevalent in AMMs. So they are trying to bring PMMs. So you can check out the Dodo exchange also. So then there are asset management tools like MetaMask, Trust Wallet, Coinbase Wallet, Frontier. That's essentially focusing on DeFi wallet. Zapper, Zerion again are DeFi wallets. In Engine is again a wallet, but this is mostly focused on NFTs again. So these are the asset management tools from where you can custody your assets, but then you can also use the DeFi applications through these asset management tools. So then DeFi analytics is there, like from where you will get to see stats about DeFi. DeFi Pulse is there, APY.Vision is there, CoinGecko is there, CoinMarketCap is there, CryptoQuant is there. From CryptoQuant you can see the inflow outflow of tokens, right? So they are providing some insights about DeFi tokens or DeFi level analytics also. I'm sure they will be providing some level. So decentralized money markets. So these are lending or borrowing protocols, right? So Aave is there. So when we talk about in decentralized exchanges like Uniswap, SushiSwap are there on Ethereum. Sushi is, I guess, also on. I have to check if it is also on Binance Smart Chain. But OneInch is there on Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. Pancake is specifically on Binance Smart Chain. Zero Exchange is specifically on Avalanche. Serum is specifically on Solana, like this, right? So they are all AMMs again. So then when we talk about the money markets, Aave, Compound are leading in Ethereum. Then Aave recently launched on layer 2 also, like on Polygon. So then Cream.Finance is there on Binance Smart Chain. Venus is again on Binance Smart Chain, right? So that's how these different lending protocols are there. So when we talk about DeFi infrastructure and dev tooling, like where they provide some level of interoperability for other blockchains also. Like Ren is there, right? It is building for Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash. Similarly, Badger is there on Binance Smart Chain. Ren is there on Ethereum, right? So Badger is there on Binance Smart Chain. Then I think Ren is also now considering to move on to other blockchains also, opening up to other blockchains also, so that they can build that interoperable as well as cross-chain solutions. So derivatives like now DeFi projects like Perpetual protocol, DYDX protocol, these are there. Then options. So in derivatives there are two types of markets. One is futures, one is options. So futures is like on Perpetual and DYDX. Options are there on Hegic and Opin, right? So one of them is like in European style options, and another one of them is like American style options trading. These are the DeFi applications built. Then please next. So then we talk about synthetics markets. So synthetic markets are like where if there are stocks, commodities, there are cryptos which are on other exchange another chains. They you can create the synthetic versions of those, right? So this is possible through synthetic markets. This enables opens up a lot of innovative ideas, and a lot of new innovative projects can be built. If you go to synthetic, they are providing liquidity of synthetic tokens for different commodities and exchanges, and for gold, silver, like this. Then this can be plugged into different exchange DeFi projects, where synthetic tokens are required, right? So this is very interesting. You can check it out. So synthetic, sorry, this is not synthetic. This is synthetics. That's a project. TIX. Synthetics UMA is there. Then Mirror Protocol is doing that on Binance Smart Chain, I guess, right? So then yield aggregators. So when there a lot of money was there on Ethereum, custodian wallets were there, lending protocols were there. Then a narrative came, a lot of yield farming also started. So let's say the stable coin based yield farming projects like Curve Finance is there, Balances is there. So different pools were being created, right? If you stake your USDT Tether on Aave, you get, let's say, 6% of APY, annual percentage yield. That is, in 1 year you're getting 6% of interest. If you go on Compound, they are providing 5%, let's say. That's a real time, right? So now if you go on, let's say, some other Curve Finance, right? So they there you are getting APY of, let's say, 10%. Now it will be a hassle for you to switch your USDT from from Aave or from Compound to Curve Finance, right? Now, but this is where yield aggregators like Yearn Finance come into picture. So what they do is you give your asset you lock your assets into the smart contracts of Yearn Finance. Now they move on, those smart contracts automatically move on to those DeFi projects which provide maximum yield. Like they automatically switch between Curve Finance, Aave, Compound to you provide the maximum yield, right? That's where the yield aggregators came into picture, and it's very profitable business, I would say. A new type of fund management, portfolio management, or asset management today. So AutoFarm is there on Binance Smart Chain. Pancake Bunny is also there on Binance Smart Chain, right? YFI2 is also on Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum. YFI is specifically on Ethereum as of now. So then Data Oracle services, like whatever price feeds are, you see on the DeFi applications today. So, that's happening through Chainlink, Teller, Band protocol, right? Then, since you have heard of a lot of smart contract hacks, someday one or another smart contract is being hacked, or the pool is being drained by the hackers. So what is a very interesting solutions have emerged through projects like Nexus Mutual, Opium, and Bridge Mutual. Like they provide the insurance to those contracts. So you can buy that particular insurance when you log your assets into those particular pools. So just in case the pool gets drained, your money, you will get saved from that, right, to some extent. So that is mentioned, how it is happened, how it happens. So this is a very, very interesting solution, and I believe me, this is still very much underdeveloped and underrated side, and it's very difficult also. So this is an area where I'm very much interested to invest. Where if anybody comes up with some particular solution into this space, it still has a lot of potential, right? So then we talk about prediction markets. Augur, Genesis are there, right? But much there, not much is happening on this side, I believe. It's not that level of exciting. Yeah, please move ahead. So when we talk about stable coins, again, stable coins like are of different types. Asset backed, like Digix is there, where you the Digix, the Oro Pocket has also come, like recently, like just like Digix. So where actual gold is there. So actual gold or commodities backed, protocol. So they mint the wrapped version of that, or synthetic version of that can be traded on in DeFi, right? Like as a stable coin. So that's where the asset backed stable coins, then fiat backed. So if you have dollar in your bank account, right? Then you let's say you have $1,000 in your bank account, and you create 1,000 USD tokens on Ethereum or any other blockchain, which represents that. So all these companies like USDC, like which is being run by Circle and Coinbase together. So then Paxos is there, True USD is there, Tether is there. They are actually US Huobi dollar is there, Gemini dollar is there. So these are holding those amount of actual dollars in their bank accounts, and they are getting their audits on a regular level, right? So and then there are algorithmic stable coins, where you do not need to hold actual dollars, right? They are algorithmically designed. It's still a very in I would say very nascent stage. So DeFi dollar Ember Fourth is there. Then also I think there is RSR is there, which is backed by Peter Thiel. So then that RSR is actually again backed. That comes into crypto backed. DAI is there, RSR is there, WBTC is there, REN BTC is there. So these are crypto backed stable coins, right? So yeah, please move ahead. So these are the different possible applications in DeFi, right? You can see there is a lot of scope in DeFi. DeFi is not that simple. A lot of new categories have already been emerged in quite a few time. It's very difficult to hold on to each and every category. But a lot of new categories are getting emerged with time, because it is an open world, right? It's an ocean. It's an infinite space. So there is no limit of innovation here. So then we talk about the NFTs, right? NFTs is also quite in a hype, but I believe the real potential of NFTs still have to be emerged and still have to be realized by the crypto community and by the world itself. So they are nothing but the non-fungible tokens, the unique cryptographic tokens that exist on blockchain, and they cannot be replicated, right? It's a very simplest definition that we can talk about NFTs. Like if I have one Bitcoin in my pocket, or if I have one Ethereum in my pocket, and if you also have one Bitcoin or Ethereum in your pocket, both have the same value. They can be exchanged very easily, right? When we talk about the NFTs, if I have that, one particular NFT in my pocket, and if you have one particular NFT in your pocket, both are not same. Both have different value, or both have different, intrinsic value, I would say, depending upon how the market, reacts to that NFT, right? So now they how these NFTs are actually defined. They are nothing but unique identification codes and metadata that distinguish them from each other. That's the technical definition of NFTs. Okay, so when we talk about current market cap of NFT projects, that's again massive $28 billion, which is nothing but 1.2% of entire market cap. And I believe this 1.2% is going to cross 5% in coming times, because like the DeFi is eating up now the crypto space. I feel the NFTs are going to eat up the entire crypto space and the real world space going forward, because NFT is the next big thing. Everybody is talking about NFT. The actors have started talking about NFTs. Like technologists have started talking about NFTs, right? Gary Vee has started talking about Gary Vee, like investors have started talking about NFTs. So NFTs real potential still has to be properly realized, and I would say we are still in a very nascent stage. Please move ahead. So standards and blockchain supporting NFTs. Now, I believe we are still since we are very early stage. Only ERC 721 has been used so far for creating NFTs in most of the projects, right? ERC one when ERC 1155 will come and will actually be start using by the projects. So this is going to change the game of NFTs, because when we talk about ERC 721 standard, it is only limited to non-fungible tokens, right? Now, like ERC 20 is for fungible tokens, right? You know about that. But ERC 721 is for NFTs. So it is, but that ERC 721 is only limited to non-fungible token. It supports transferring one token at a time. If you have minted one NFT, and then if you have minted another NFT, like which is a different NFT from the previous NFT, then both those NFTs can be transferred at different times. They cannot be transferred together, right? But when we talk about ERC 1155, they're not just for non-fungible tokens, they are also for fungible tokens. So it actually acts as a superset of ERC 721, right? Where it provides both fungible and non-fungibles, and it also offers semi-fungibility, which means the fungible tokens can be transmuted into non-fungible tokens and vice versa. Like if you have created, let's say, a fungible token on ERC with using ERC 1155 standard, then that fungible token can easily be converted into or modified into non-fungible token. That is a big feature that is there on ERC 1155, right? Then it supports batch transfers of many token IDs in a single transaction. Means if you have created multiple NFTs, so you can transfer very easily multiple NFTs in a single block of a transaction, right? But in ERC 721, it is not possible. Now in ERC 721, again, it requires a new smart contract deployed for each new type of token. But in ERC 1155, it can be deployed in a single smart contract for infinite token types. So this is a big difference. And so far ERC 721 being used on other blockchains like Binance Smart Chain, Float, Azos, Polkadot, right? It's nothing but again I would say the forked version of what originally was built on Ethereum, right? That's what is the story so far. I believe there is so much work to be done in NFT space, and I think you guys are going to be the ones from whom I can expect in the coming future. Yeah, please go ahead. Then there are a lot of use cases of NFTs, right? In just like DeFi. So I would say the categories that I have mentioned or applications I mentioned, they are still limited, but there are infinite applications or use cases available which we also might not be knowing, right? So artwork is very much now known by everyone. Like you can create any digital art, and it can be sorry. Just a minute. Okay, sorry. So it can be, very easily converted into an NFT, like Rarible, OpenSea. These are the marketplaces. Seascape is there, right? Then collectibles, virtual and physical collectibles, where engine, Decentraland, like virtual land, or can be created, or any type of collectibles. CryptoKitties are there, right? So these are the collectibles. So then games like Alien Worlds, Xe Infinity, Sandbox, a lot of other gaming platforms are emerging, right? Where you can play the games, and those your favorite players, your favorite cars can be converted into NFTs, right? And then just imagine when those NFTs are created, they can be used on those different gaming platforms. Let's say you created one gun in Counter Strike game, and that gun now can be used in some other fighting game, right? Similarly, the car can be used in some other game, right? That's called the real composability, right? So and just imagine if a car was created, and if that NFT was created on Ethereum blockchain originally, but now it can be wrapped on Binance Smart Chain or on Polkadot, right? Then it can be traded over there, it can be sold over there. That's going to be a mind-boggling use case, right? Once we reach that level, then there will be a lot of new possible use cases be emerging, which we don't even know yet, right? So then music based use cases, right? Whatever song you create or whatever music you create, lyrics you create, like content you create. So Audius is a platform where you can do that. For regarding films or videos, Theta Network is there. So regarding sports, Chili's Network is there. Like there are different teams, which you must be knowing, AC Milan, or these different teams, which are there. Football teams are there. So these they have their NFTs have been created, through this sports Chili's platform, right? So then Nike recently announced that they will be coming up with crypto kicks, like the NFTs for the fashion apparels, like unique fashion apparels, right? So then real estate is also there. Like I just forgot the name of a project that is working in real estate, but there also is coming. When we talk about the DeFi of NFTs, now the major problem with NFTs so far is that whatever NFTs you create, it cannot be so let's say I have created an art, and I call for 10 Ethereum, like for in exchange of that NFT. Now the big question comes into picture that how come that NFT has intrinsic value of 10 Ethereum? How do we verify that it actually has the real value of 10 Ethereum, right? So we don't have a way to do that, right? So the price discovery, or is a challenge, right? Then the real value of that NFT is a challenge. So whatever NFTs are being created these days, but whatever value people are paying for those NFTs, how come that value holds the real value, right? We don't know. And that's a big red flag, big question mark. This is where Pandora project is coming, and they are solving this problem, right? And the major issue with all NFTs, because of their rarity also is, or scarcity also is, that liquidity for these NFTs is a big question mark. And then then real world assets like real estate or other real world assets are there, whose liquidity is a question mark still in the crypto world, in the blockchain world. So there again, Pandora is solving a big problem, right? So you can check out the Pandora finance protocol. So this is all about the use cases of NFTs. Please move ahead. And I think I have covered everything. Yeah, so that's all from my side. So if you have any questions, you can ask here, so that I can answer. And else you can follow me. You can check out the links, and let me know if you have any query in the future as well. Yeah. Does anyone has a question? I guess no one has a question. Akshay?